The walls we build to protect ourselves from being hurt again, they work. They keep the pain out. But here's what nobody tells you. They keep God's power out too. Because agape love isn't just about what you give to other people. It's the very channel through which God moves in your life. And every condition you put on love is a condition you're putting on His access. Today, we're talking about what it actually costs to stay guarded.
What's up, Conversation Nation? It's your girl, LaMeka.
And I'm your boy, Ed.
And we're back with another episode of Let's Talk About It. And today, we're talking about
loving after trauma.
Ooh.
Can you, after you've been traumatized? Now, see, our last episode, we went into this a little bit, but we wanted to take it even deeper today and talk about, can you really love after trauma? And I'm not talking about, just caring about somebody. I'm talking about that real agape, selfless, unconditional vulnerable love after you've been hurt. Because ultimately what happens is when we ask ourselves that question, once we have been traumatized and once we've been hurt, a lot of times what ends up happening is we put conditions, we put parameters around what I will do, what I won't do. We put parameters around what I'll accept, what I won't accept, what I'll say yes to, what I'll say no to, all for the sake of not being hurt again, all for the sake of feeling like I'm keeping myself safe.
Yeah, got to protect myself.
And because we got to protect ourselves, and here's the thing that I want to stress at the beginning before we really start getting into some questions is the moment we start putting up walls around what we will do and what we won't do and how we will love and how we won't love, those walls may keep hurt out, but it keeps you in.
It keeps love, true love, from coming in too.
It keeps true love because you're keeping true love from coming and you're keeping true love from flowing. Let's put it like that. But love can't, when you got walls up, love can't flow. So a lot of times what's happening is we're searching for God, but we got walls up. Yeah. Because people hurt us and we feel like God hurt us. That's a whole nother episode. We coming with that one, y'all. We feel what people hurt us and we got these walls up. And so, LaMeka, mic drop question. You been hurt? And have you been hurt before? In your few years on the earth, have you been hurt before? And kind of what were some of the conditions you put around loving again after being hurt?
Well, no, I've never been hurt ever in my life.
Ever?
What does this word hurt you speak of?
What does that mean, Pastor?
Actually, yes, several times. And it's crazy because, the first thing, most of the time, I don't know about anybody, most of the time when I hear, have you ever been hurt? When love, you think about romantic relationships. But I've also experienced hurt in love in, friendships and family relationships. And I really believe that those impacted me more and did a little bit more damage than my actual romantic relationships.
Tell me more. Tell us more about this.
So originally I was going to answer that question with the romantic relationship story. Have a ton of those that I can share. However, there were some. So I always say that family, you get stuck with family, but you choose your friends.
Okay, I like it.
Right? Because I don't have a choice of who my mother, my dad, my siblings, any of that. I didn't choose them. I was born into this family. But my friends are people that I specifically chose to be a part of my life. And if I call you friend, that's not a term you should take lightly. Because I'm not a person, never have been growing up, just the way I was raised, not a person that I'll allow a lot of people into my circle, especially not intimate. It's weird. I like to say, you know, kind of like in the Bible, the outer court, the inner court's holy of holies. So there's different levels, right? So there's a lot of people in the outer court that may know me, may know things about me and feel like, oh, that we're really close, but you're only going so far. Then there's another group of people that can get a little bit further, but to like really be a good friend of mine and to know some real things, you have to hit that inner close circle.
Sure.
There's only a few people, and when I let you in, that means I trust you, I care for you on a different level. And I've had one particular friend that I will say that was a really, really good friend of mine. And to be honest, I haven't had a friend that close since that friend. And really, really close friends, really, really, really cool. And she did something that just kind of betrayed my trust. And she was like, well, I just want you to know that was just this is how it happened. And I said it because, and it's not like that. And so I kind of, you know, was like, you know, but we were really cool. You know, that was my girl. So we were still friends after that. And then, you know, I'm extending myself to this person and we're being friends, but then, you know, things just kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was really, really, really hurt because I expected more. Like that was my girl for real. And I expected more. And I had given more and she had been better. So I was really blindsided by this thing. And I was really hurt, you know? So, you know, that was a hurt that happened. People always think like, oh, this dude broke my heart. But we don't really talk about the friendships that break our hearts. We don't really talk about the parents, especially like the absentee parents, you know, that break our heart. My dad, we have a much better relationship now, but my dad was the first example in my life that I had of a man being there and then leaving and making promises and breaking them. Or showing up and then being gone for forever, just coming in and out, and he created that pattern. So, you know, I remember the one time I'm like, yeah, my dad, because most of the time when he said a thing, he did a thing, but then there would be other moments where he just could not, and my dad was in and out of prison and different things, and so I remember the very first time I was waiting, I'm sitting in the window like, yeah, my dad's coming, and I was waiting, I waited for hours. My mom was like, come on, he's not coming. And that was my first heartbreak there. So yeah, hurt.
I love how you kind of transform, because usually when we think about have we been hurt before, romantic relationships are the ones that really come up first, because I think those are the most frequent. Like that comes up first, and that's the thing that, and really, if the way you put it, and I really like the way you put it, that's the most surface of them. Because this person came into my world for a moment. There was some adrenaline. There was some dopamine there. There was this, I want to really spend time with you. But in reality, I'm glad we're going to dig deeper than romantic relationships, because the ones that really hurt the most are those who you trusted. Those friendships, those family members, those people, and like you say, you were born with family, but you start to develop because you spend time with family. There's expectations. See, here's the thing, y'all. Hurt. What is actual hurt and disappointment? Hurt is really what I expected from you and what I got from you. And if I expected up here and I got down here, that space in between what I expected and what I got from you is hurt. And disappointment. How do we respond to that? What happens, especially when that expectation, because here's the thing, and I heard somebody say this before. He said, you win trust by drips and you lose it in buckets.
Oh yeah.
It takes drips for me to trust you. It takes drips for me to open up to you. It takes drips, but one instance, you can pour all them drips out.
Oh, it's a wrap. You do one thing, now it's over.
It's a wrap.
That one act discount all of the other things that you ever did. And I think that, you know, we're talking about the family thing or whatever. The first thing that comes to our mind is the romantic ones, because I don't even think we really realize that it's hurt when a family member does it or when a friend does it. We don't be like, oh, you hurt me, you broke my heart. We don't look at it that way all the time. But that's essentially what it is.
It's that hurt, and then that stuff hits you deep. It hits, a lot of times it hits us so deep, we don't confront it, we don't face it, we don't deal with it, we simply just build walls. Because if that person is one thing, some person I just met on the street, and we met and we was together for a few months, but that person who's been a part of your life for years, that person who you've experienced a lot with, what you got?
That person that you told things to, especially with a best friend, that you told things to about how other people hurt you and they promised to not do that thing and then they turn around and do it. That's a different level of
that is a different
deception
level.
and hurt. You knew what I went through. I know what you've gone through. And we've shared those things. And then you go and do that thing. It's like that hits different.
That does hit different. And how do we handle that? How do we handle a place? How do you handle that? In the comments, if you got some good comments, if you got some good answers, we love to hear them as we talk too. But how do you navigate that? Because a lot of times what we do is we shut off love. We shut off agape. We shut off my feelings. We become, for lack of better words, dead inside. Numb.
I think for me, how I handled it and how I handle things now is a little bit different. But first of all, acknowledge it. Like, hey, when you did this, I felt this way. Acknowledging it. And having that conversation with that person because, like in this case, it was like, hey, that's how it was presented to you. That's really not how it came out. This is the situation, what happened. And then allowing people grace. But also just being real. So for me, one thing that I did when it happened is I did set up some boundaries and we like to say boundaries and barriers, but it all just turns into conditions that we put on our unconditional love. And that's how love comes with conditions, because it's like, hey, now I have to be a little bit more careful. I can't be as transparent or as vulnerable because the last time I did that, it hurt me. So now I'm more reluctant to open up. And just being honest, because when you get hurt, you don't just bounce back. We're like, okay, Jesus, help me with that. And then now we good. And I'm going to go be vulnerable with the next person just the same. It ain't that easy. It ain't that simple. So, it was definitely some conditions and some things that were put up. And I'm like, okay, help me. But I definitely had to pray about it. Yeah. And even now more with certain things and just, God, give me wisdom on who I can open up with, who I can be vulnerable with. And I don't know if I'll ever have that level of friendship with another person again. That's something the Lord will have to show me. As I tried a couple times and it wasn't, it came a little closer, but it wasn't on that level. So I don't know. That's a difficult one because, that hurt definitely was there over years and over time. Now I'm older. That happened years back. I'm older now and it's like, okay, I can understand things different. I look at things a little bit different, but there was definitely some boundaries that were put in place. I definitely had to learn to trust that person again and acknowledge my hurt and work through it.
It's interesting. As you were talking, I started thinking about the conditions that we put around our love. What happens when God tells us to love?
Man, no, for real, because
this dude,
listen,
I better scoot over. You might get sucker punched here.
Man, because God, he did, and I was like, I don't even like her right now. I don't like her right now. But what God did show me was that that love that I had. Because you can really, really love. It's a thin line between love and hate, y'all. That is so true. So you can love somebody so much that they do something that push you right to the edge of I hate you because I loved you that much. And you did this little thing and now it's like, oh my God, I hate you because it's all of that love that I have for you. But God reminds us that, okay, all of that love that you have for this person, they did this one thing. Are you going to let just that one thing just all this other, it just cancels out all this other love that you had. It has to be, if it's worth loving, it's worth fighting for. And there has to be something in that love that you had before that pushes you to fight, to at least establish something. So when God said to go love again, and then, God, I tell y'all every time, listen, I don't know if I'm gonna say this every podcast, but I might. God don't play about me, but he don't play with me either. He get me together real quick. And so while I'm sitting here like, nah, because I can't believe that and this and whatever, and he was like, yeah, but do you think about all the times that I told you and you didn't, and all how you cut up and I still love you anyway? I know all your dirt. I know as open and as transparent and vulnerable as you think you were with this person, there's still some stuff that you probably didn't divulge fully. I know that, and I love you anyway.
Yeah.
And he was like, so if I can love you, regardless of all that, you can still love people. And so when I thought about that, like if it's worth loving, it's worth fighting for, I had to realize like, okay, there was still a love that I had for this person, that when he said, okay, I need you to still love on this person and forgive them and give her grace because you mess up and you want people to forgive you and all of those things. I was like, you know what? I had to fall back on that and still show her love. Now, I ain't gonna say that it was easy, because when I tell you, I was like, she's like, are you coming over for Sunday dinner? No. I came over for Sunday dinner every Sunday for years. And this particular one, I was like, I ain't going nowhere. He was like, and why not? You know, so yeah. I just had to lean on that part of it and still love it. And it was hard, you know, but just being honest with the person, like, dude, I'm still feeling a type of way over that. It might take me a minute to get over it, and working through that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This line just keeps coming in my head. God is love.
He is.
And anytime you introduce love, we introduce God. Mm-hmm. And so when we start putting conditions around our love, we start putting conditions around the God that we're releasing from us and into other people's lives. When we start putting conditions around, because here's the thing, the healing that we need, the stuff that we're praying for, the things that we're asking God to do for us, God is going to use people to do it. And he might use the people you don't even like. Listen, I know God might even use the people that you don't even like to do it. And so if we start shutting down love in our life and in our heart, essentially we're shutting down God in our life. The prison that we're making for ourselves to keep us safe is also the prison we're making for ourselves to keep God out.
Yeah, that's kind of like you hold your hand too tight. You can't get nothing in it. That's the old folks used to say back in my day. You got to loosen your grip. You open your hand, you can get more stuff in. Anyway, I'm not. Anyway, y'all, kind of.
You went old folk on us?
I did. I don't even know if that was making sense to y'all, but it made sense to me. But no, and then I just want to say real quick, you know, because we're talking about boundaries and barriers and guards and all those things. I don't want y'all to think that having some level of that is wrong, because you have to be wise. You got to be able to discern or just use wisdom to kind of see when it's okay to. So that don't mean have no boundaries, no guards or no anything, and you just out there loving and trusting everybody like, you know, with nothing. You can't trust everybody with everything, but that doesn't mean to put up a boundary and use it as something to hide behind. It's just to be cautious with certain things and to just kind of weigh it out and watch.
Yeah, because you got to realize you got an enemy too. An enemy that, they want to love everybody. I'm going to send them somebody to love. And it might not be the right person. So you have to be discerning with how you love, who you love, when you love, what you love, where you love. You have to still always be led by the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Because trauma takes you way off the deep end. Trauma doesn't, when you're in love and when you're rested or settled, you're kind of in the middle. But trauma takes you way to the right or way to the left. You know, like a seesaw, like when you're on the seesaw, if you're using your legs and you standing, you and the person over there, and then y'all could just stand and be flat, but the heavier one, if they let it go, the heavy, trauma is heavy. Trauma is heavy on your heart, is heavy on your life, and trauma has weight when it comes to your decision making. And so if we are led by trauma instead of led by love, see, when I'm led by love, I'm led by God. When I'm led by trauma, I'm led by me. And everything, when I'm led by love, everything that happens as a result of me being led by love, God will heal, God will repay, God will come back on the backside. He's not going to just leave you out there. Mm-hmm. But when I'm led by trauma cost. Decisions made by trauma cost. Decisions based on me cost. Decisions based on the prison that I put myself in cost. Mm-hmm. And so the thing that we got to understand and know is, as we are letting trauma lead us and we're kicking love out, God is love, and you're kicking God out. And so on one hand you praying, and on the other hand you hating. And on one hand you're asking God to do or to be for you. And he said, I can do, and I have people in the earth that I'll send to feel that. And your mind saying, I don't trust people. I couldn't trust the ones that I trusted. Now you asking me to trust the ones that I don't even know. I don't trust people. I don't like people. Y'all know how we be talking.
Yeah.
And so while you're shutting people out, you're shutting your solution out. While you're shutting people out, the very stuff you're praying for is the very stuff that's knocking on your door that you won't accept because you just want it to fall out the sky. You want God to pull the roof off, drop it out the sky, and then put your roof back on. Make sure you seal it up so don't no rain get in, and put it back on the roof. Put your roof back on, and that's how you want your blessings. And we're missing blessing after blessing. We're missing answered prayer because of trauma, because we don't know how to love anymore. And so what I want to encourage you guys to do is be led by the Holy Spirit. I need you to, like you said, we have to be led not by our trauma, not by the prison that we put ourselves in, but we have to be led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Because if we're not led by the Holy Spirit, we'll miss it. God, I asked you for this, and God, I needed this, and God, I was suffering here, and God, I had lack here, and God said, I sent here, I sent this person here, I sent this person here, and I sent this here, and you rejected them all because you were led by your trauma instead of being led by my love. Yeah, that
what you got to say?
No, because that reminds me of it. Just an example that popped in my head, because it's like I'm sure somebody out there like, I don't be rejecting people. God can use people to bless me, but what if you somebody that's been praying for a wife or a husband, and that one person hurt you, and then God done sent you somebody to love on you the right way, but they did something that reminded you of something else. And your trauma response was like, I can't trust you. Now you done rejected them, and you sitting there lonely like, God, I'm waiting for my wife or my husband. He said, well, I just tried to give them to you. And you rejected them because they did something that reminded you of something that happened years ago. That's just an example that popped in my head.
That is a great example, because one of the biggest questions sometimes we get, even in church, is about companionship. Mm-hmm. And about, well, God, where my wife at? Or where my husband at? And you literally could have the person that God is trying to send you. Now, I've been married for 24 years to my wife, so I ain't been in that situation in a long time. Thank you, Lord. But here's the thing. Even before me and my wife got married, I almost messed that whole thing up because of trauma. I almost did not marry my wife, who I've been happily married to for 24 years. Because of trauma, because I got hurt. Well, I'm about to go out here and I want to play, or I want to do whatever I want to do, and then I'll figure it out later. And it took just the Lord saying, no, this is what you need. This is who I've called for you. This is who you're supposed to be with, for me to take that step. And like I said, it's been 24 years. And so how many times have you asked for a companion? How many times whatever you've asked for, and we've missed it because you made a smirk like the last one. Right. I can't fool with you.
that's funny. Like, no, you did that. So I have a question. Because that's right to our loving after trauma. So you said you almost missed Joe, and his wife is such a lovely lady. Oh my God, such a sweetheart. I love her to pieces. So you said that you almost missed it though, and almost didn't marry her because of trauma. So how was it? How did you get to that space where you can love after trauma, after being traumatized and after dealing with all that? How were you able to welcome love and then have such a flourishing relationship for 24 years?
So here's the interesting thing. My wife and I won't get into the whole story, but my wife and I were a little bit of a long distance, it wasn't that long, a couple hours relationship. And I always say, and one of the things, we might do a podcast on love, when they love relationships, but I always say communication actually brings people together. People don't fall out of love, they fall out of communication. And so when the communication stops is really when the love kind of starts to dissipate. And that's a whole landslide of stuff we could talk about there. But we talked a lot on the phone, and our hearts were starting to join just because of the amount of time we talked. So I didn't live here. And so it's not like we were, I'll call you when I get home. It was, I called you in the morning, I called you at night. We talked and we talked and we talked. And then it got to this point where I got really afraid. My trauma was coming up. And I think y'all don't know, me and my wife got married in like 6 months. It was a little, I would not advise you to do that, but it worked out. But I got really afraid because of my trauma, because I've been hurt, because there were other things that I felt like I wanted to do and I didn't want to get tied down. And I had to ask myself this question. If I left her, if this wasn't going to happen, I would spend the rest of my life looking for her again. Because we had talked, when we had done so much talking, and her heart, the person she was before we got married is the same person she was after we got married. I know we got some horror stories out there, but she
Man, I can tell you about the switch-ups and fooleries I done dealt with.
We got no switch-ups. But in reality, I knew I had to settle in myself that what I wanted to chase in the world, eventually I was going to come back around and look for my wife again. Not the physical person, but who she was. And I said, if I leave her now, I'll spend the rest of my life looking for her again. And so I denied myself.
You denied your trauma.
I denied my trauma. I denied what I wanted. And I said, the best decision for me is to be here. This has a better long-term outlook. Because the thing is, I'm really big on like choices that we make and things that we do. And I wouldn't be sitting here right now. We wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast right now. I wouldn't have Revived Church. None of this. I don't know what life would look like if I didn't say yes in that moment. That was like one of them pivotal God yeses. And sometimes we have to, I'm not saying take everything that comes, because the devil sent his too. But sometimes we have to hear the Spirit and deny ourselves, deny our trauma, deny what we thought we wanted, deny the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, and go with what God is saying. And it's worked, and it's worked well.
So what I'm hearing, just kind of sum all things up, is that you tried this relationship out and your trauma rose up and fear happened. And so you were afraid, and you instead of running, you decided to just stay and stick it out and push through your fear to see what happens.
Yes.
And that's just a really, really great, I think, point, or that this is what we're gonna have to do, because in order to love after trauma, you're gonna have to face your fear. Because trauma is going to rise up. Your trauma is going to talk to you. Your trauma is going to say, get out, run. Girl, it looked just like it did before. Boy, you stupid. She going to do just like, your trauma is going to rise up. Oh, there it go. There go your daddy again, acting like he whatever it might be. Your trauma is going to talk to you and try to tell you to escape, to get out, to run, and to be safe. And to love after trauma is going to take nope, I'm going to be afraid, but I'm going to keep going and do it anyway.
responding to your trauma will cost you your life. Responding to your trauma and only responding to your trauma will cost you your peace. Responding only to your trauma will cost you your purpose. Because I promise I don't believe I'll be right doing what I'm doing. I know this is what I'm called to do. And I promise, maybe God had other ways to get me there. But I promise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now and walking fulfilled now if I would have said no then. If I would have responded to my trauma in that critical point in my life, I don't believe I'd be who I am and where I am now. And so responding to trauma will cost you everything. It costs you access to God. Because if everything is dedicated or dictated by trauma and not love, God is love. And when I'm walking in, when I bring love into a situation, I bring God into a situation. And if I start denying love, I'm denying God while asking him for stuff at the same time, while asking him for healing and health. Like forgiveness, I'm gonna go off the deep rails for 20 seconds. Forgiveness is an act of love. But you can't forgive, but you asking for God to be forgiven. You asking God for health and strength, but you can't forgive. Forgiveness is something that will rot in you. And unforgiveness will rot in you and tear you to pieces while you asking for health at the same time.
Right. So you praying and wondering why you aren't getting answers.
Because you have built walls around the love you give and the love you receive. Look, if y'all have built some walls, I'd love to hear about them. If you got questions about this episode and would like us to dive even more, put those in the comments. We will respond. We may create some episodes based on some of y'all questions and some things that you guys want to hear about. But I believe if you truly get to a place where you can love after trauma, man, there's nothing that can be held back from you. But trauma was sent to you to stifle you. Trauma was sent your way to hold you back. But if you can love after that and love through that, there's nothing going to hold you back.
Right. You'll definitely be stronger.
You will definitely be stronger. All right, Conversation Nation. We want to hear from y'all. Love y'all. See you next time.
All right. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Amen.